Be advised, if the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Singer Stephanie Reese was born and raised in Seattle, but her exotic beauty and her beautiful voice have taken her to stages far, far from home. This is her. Stephanie has appeared on theater stages in London, Germany. She's performed solo concerts to fans in Russia, Thailand, China, Indonesia. She is the first Filipino-American singer to headline Carnegie Hall in New York City.
Come make a little step of peace for all the children of the world. Come have fun and give with all your heart for all the children of the world. When all of the children can smile again, a world for freedom's born. When all of the children can laugh again, can peace be far away? Help yourself, help with all your friends, for all the children of the
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Philippine Philippines Uncut. I'm your host, Buddy Karanan. Now, on this show, we talk about everything under the sun, and tonight is about music and song. And it is my pleasure to introduce to all of you a very talented Filipino-American who is making waves all around the world. And I'd like to welcome to Philippines Uncut and to GNN, the talented, the beautiful, the captivating, and the enchanting Miss Stephanie Reese.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Welcome, and I'm so glad you're here because it really is an honor for us to have you, someone of your caliber. And I wasn't making, that wasn't just blunt PR saying you're making waves around the world, because indeed you are. Now, Stephanie, tell us, who is Stephanie Reese in a nutshell?
Wow, oh, that's a loaded question, right? Just right off the bat. I guess I would say I'm a singer, an actress. I've added philanthropist to that list, and a writer also. Yeah. Okay.
Now, you're Filipino American.
Yes.
Tell us, a little bit about your ethnic background.
Sure. Well, my mother is Filipina. She's from Bicol, Chinese Filipina technically, but I would just say Filipina, and she's from Albay, Kamalig. And my father is Japanese and American. Irish, English, and Welsh, and
Irish, English, and Welsh. Wow.
Yeah, and I grew up in Seattle, Washington. And as I said in my concert last weekend, I think that means I have Bicol Express and Starbucks running through my veins. So
of course, because Starbucks, Seattle being the home of Starbucks.
Exactly, among many other things, Boeing and Amazon and Microsoft. Yes.
But amazing, amazing mix. So you have Chinese, Filipino, Japanese, Irish, English, Welsh.
Yes.
Blood in you.
Correct.
How do you identify with all these,
That's such a great question, because I've always considered myself biracial. So in the States, where you grow up. I mean, I know that I look different, but I never really. My dad's family was Caucasian in Seattle, where I grew up, and I never knew that I was a minority, as they say. I learned that when my grandparents first visited, and I was about 8 years old, and it was like the first time I realized my mom was from another country. I had no idea, because you don't see color when you're a child. But I've always just really considered myself my own race. Me and my sisters have just grown up really celebrating all the different cultures. My older sister is married a Japanese American guy, so she knows more about that part of our heritage. And I've, of course, come to the Philippines a lot, so actually at this point I know the Philippines better than my mom. She's not been here very much at all since she left. So
when did you start coming to the Philippines? Because you were born in the States.
Yes.
And you spent, I assume you spent your formative years in the States.
Yes.
When did you first start coming here?
5 years ago was my first time, and I really, I came here originally because of an organization called Gawad Kalinga, and I had already been helping them raise funds in the States through music, and I decided to come here and kind of check it out myself and see what it was about. And to be honest with you, my parents were really worried because they hadn't been here for so long, and they're like, I don't know if you should really go. And then I came here and like,
to connect
yeah,
to the locals, to the society,
the language, and is it safe?
The difference in culture.
Yeah, and people have misconceptions about any foreign country, but there's an exotic quality to this beautiful country, and so they're like, are you safe? Are you this safe? I'm like, I'm fine. So actually I find this more safe than some more mainstream places I've gone, I think.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I love it here.
Now, were you able to connect when you first started 5 years ago? Were you able to connect your Philippine side?
Yes. I mean, I probably thought I did a lot more than I actually did in the beginning. I actually was like, wow, now I know everything. And it's only this 5th year where I'm like, whoa, I really got to know the deeper side of the culture. I mean, at first, I just felt like I was really getting in touch with a side of myself that I just never knew, And the one thing, though, that was really surprising in terms of the work that I did with GK and going to the villages, my only exposure to poverty was via the television, and so
this is so much in your face for the first time probably in your life.
Absolutely. And when you see it on TV and they're saying give 15 cents a month, you just see foreigners going into places and picking up the kids and hanging out, and I thought it would be like that, and it wasn't. It was I felt to be honest, the first thing I felt was a sense of shame about being from somewhere else and having so much. And then I was sort of, I felt disjointed because of the language, and I wasn't the person that was like really ready to go in there and just hang out. I didn't realize that about myself. But I started to learn slowly, you know, that it's first that you have to understand the culture and understand that Filipinos are shy and at first, you know, and to, you know, there was a certain,
yes,
but once you break that barrier down, wow, you're eating and hanging out and dancing and singing.
Do you feel at home in the Philippines now?
Very much.
How is your Filipino, your Tagalog?
Konti lang. But I'm learning slowly. I mean, it's a hard, you know, I had a tutor, and we would always end up just eating together and hanging out, which is
the best way to learn.
It's the best way
Absolutely.
to learn. But I'd always end up wanting to tell her stories, which of course means I'd speak more English than anything. So.
Growing up in the States, in your household, you never spoke Filipino to your mom?
No, my mom spoke Tagalog and Bicol, but because my family and the family that she sort of assimilated herself into was my dad's family, so she was really told to just let us speak English, and
yes.
So we wouldn't have accents, and it was a different way of thinking, I think, at that time, and or at least for that group of relatives. But and when my grandparents came, they didn't speak Tagalog, only English and Bicol.
Yes.
So, and then my mom thought, well, why let them teach them Bicol, because at least if it was Tagalog, they. But so we, and I didn't have any really Filipino friends growing up when I was a child, so there was really no place to really speak it, but I'm very angry at her now for it because it would have really helped me.
It's not too late to learn, and
No.
at least you're here, and,
Yes.
and this is really what it's about: immersion and getting to know the culture, getting to know that Filipino side of you.
Yes, I
Now,
think so.
Let's talk about your music. What got you into music? Is this something you were interested at a young age?
Yeah, very young age. I started, I mean, my mom says I've always sung since she's like, you came out singing, you know, your cry was on pitch. But, and then I just loved singing. I had, my dad's mother used to make us watch these variety shows on TV, Lawrence Welk and different shows like that. And then when my Lola came from the Philippines, she was just always singing. I mean, she literally was somebody that she woke up in the morning and she was singing, you know, and she had a very funny voice, and
So it kind of runs in the family then.
yeah, a bit.
The musical ability, the ear, and all that.
Maybe the ear. I won't say she had the best voice, as I said, but she did smoke, so maybe that was it. I don't know, but she made me though really love. And then I joined a girl choir, an exclusive girls choir in Seattle, and we started traveling the world. And I traveled at a very young age. To different
As part of this
countries.
choir?
Yes, part of the choir. So we went to Australia and Fiji and Austria, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, we went really a lot of places. Italy, yeah, and I got to, and all over the States. So I got to do a lot of that before I even graduated high school.
What about professional training, voice lessons, and did you pursue singing in college and university as well?
I did. I took voice lessons since I was about 15, and I studied violin and piano, but I did go to Indiana University at my attempt to study opera first, and then I switched to musical theater at Cincinnati Conservatory, and then I left conservatory early to do Miss Saigon in Germany.
Okay. Now, before we get into that, you know, I've seen some of your work on YouTube, and I have to say, your range, your musical range is amazing. I've seen you sing like opera, Broadway, Filipino classics, some mainstream pop-ish kind of music as well. So this is and this is actually very, very different from other singers, because when you talk about an opera singer or Broadway singer, I mean, most of the time they can only do one or the other.
Yeah.
In your case, you seem to be able to dabble in all sorts of styles. How did this come about?
I think, well, I had a great teacher who didn't, though she was a Juilliard person and she was an opera singer herself, she believed just good singing was good singing. And there was no such thing as just singing within a genre. It was always about singing from your heart and having really strong technique and stretching my voice so that I would definitely, I mean, I think I had a classical sound always anyway. but being able to take that classical sound and to say that isn't all of who I am, because what I really want to do is just express emotion and music, and that's sort of the school of thought that came, you know, from that. And I am very blessed that I had that, and in fact I fought her a lot because she's just like, oh, but you'd sound so great in this aria. And I was like, oh, but I want to do Miss Saigon. And she's like, but that's just this part of your voice, and your voice is this. So we would have that, but she absolutely accepted that that's where my heart wanted to go, and I always kept my studies up in classical singing.
Wow.
So, and it actually really helped me when I would do musicals, because you know,
the training and the background,
training.
and as we know from opera, the power.
Yes.
I mean, if one thing can be said about opera singers, male and female, it's the power they have.
It's the power, yeah.
Project their voices and really just deliver the oomph.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something about singing in the stratospheres, and, you know, it's just
like the way you put it.
otherworldly sometimes.
Singing in the stratosphere.
Yeah.
So you're comfortable singing, let's say, something like O Mio Babino Caro.
Yes.
And let's say Sun and Moon from
Yes.
Saigon. Both. But okay, if I can ask you, which style are you most comfortable with? Let's say, who is Stephanie Reese? Is she an opera singer? Is she a Broadway singer? Is she a pop singer? Who is she?
I mean, that's sort of why I tell people I'm an actress first. I mean, I actually studied probably just as much, if not more, acting in a sense, because I really, it's whatever my heart feels, and so if I categorized what kind of a genre I was, then it would take away from what I'm trying to really express, which is, like, I mean, sometimes I really feel that people see a concert and they're like, literally like, whoa, you're just this, and I try to create a cohesive concert that almost feels theatrical in nature when I tie stuff together, because it's really all of who I am. And so I hate choosing a genre, because I want the genre to be expression and my soul, if you will, but not really a style of singing. You know what I mean?
Yes,
so.
yes, absolutely. Well, that's a true artist in you coming out.
Yeah.
So not limited by form, but just really expressing yourself, expressing emotion, expressing passion inside.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Now, I've also heard you sing on clips on YouTube. I've seen your clips, and you're singing in Filipino. You're singing Philippine classics, like which
Yeah.
we're gonna show later, actually.
Oh, great!
Like Dahil
okay.
Sa'yo and Ikaw.
Sarumbangi.
And, how is that? When did you first start singing Filipino songs or Tagalog songs?
About the same time that I first came here. So
Really? Just that recent? 5 years ago?
yeah, I started then, and it was these old folk songs, because
Old folk songs.
yeah,
that's
well,
what you put in.
it's funny, because the people who are watching my concerts say, oh, you'd sound so good in this, and you should listen to Sylvia Latore, or you should listen to some Kundimans. And so I had like titos and titas in Seattle, which is where I gave my first solo concert, who just said, you know, a lot of Filipinos are coming to this show simply because they heard you were Miss Saigon, you know, and that's such a popular thing amongst Filipinos. So I thought, okay, and in that concert I sang a Japanese song, and then I sang Filipino songs, and then of course English songs and Italian. So I wanted to really capture all of my cultures, if you will. But the Filipino, then, that community was just so incredibly supportive, and just became a huge part of my fan base in the States, that I was like, okay, I really want, when I go to a show, to have something that's popular to them. And by them, it ended up being that Tito Tita crowd would just melt over these older songs from their region. So I tried to choose songs from different regions, Usahay for the Visayas, and Sarumbangi for Bicol, and, you know, Tagalog, of course.
Of course, you've got some
Dahil Sa'yo.
some traditional, universal
Yes.
Tagalog classics like Dahil Sa'yo. Who doesn't know that?
Yes,
Or
exactly.
more newish one, Ikaw, which
Ikaw,
is
yeah.
very beautiful. I think I heard you do that with was it Ryan Kayabyab or
That was with the Filipino. Actually, did I?
in a
I
gig
might
in the
have.
States?
Yes.
For
yes,
GK, I
yes,
think.
we
Yeah.
did work together.
Yeah.
That's right.
No.
Yes.
Okay. Philippine classics. Were you exposed to this growing up? So when you came here 5 years ago, it wasn't something new to you, or was it the first time 5 years ago, the first time you heard it?
Pretty much the first time. I might have heard
Really?
Dahil
Wow.
Sa'yo. Yeah, I was in this Filipino American theater thing when I was in high school, but I remember hearing Dahil Sa'yo in that show, So I was familiar with that tune, but other
But
than
not
that,
really, just something you heard once or twice in the past.
pretty much.
How
yeah.
did you? I mean, did you understand the words right away?
No, and
Right here?
not at all. I mean, I knew it was because of you, and then I had to kind of piece the rest together. And for some of those regional songs, people can't. I mean, actually, in the Kundiman, I would ask my mom to translate. She's like, "Oh, I don't know." I'm like, "You speak Tagalog," and
But
she's like,
this is old Tagalog.
Yeah, I
like
didn't
kinda deep
realize.
old Tagalog. So.
and she said, "It's old Tagalog, and it's romantic words that I've never heard." You know, it's like.
But okay, when you sing Philippine songs and you mentioned Japanese, Italian, all
Yes.
these songs, do you go to the extent of finding out the meaning of the
Yes,
words? Because
absolutely.
I mean, how do you express? Like Dahil Sa'yo is a very powerful, very very romantic song about love, about it's pretty fatalistic in a certain way. To project
Yes.
that as a singer, do you have to go to the extent of really
You do.
the
Yeah, I
meaning
mean,
of the words?
I think you do. I know that. I mean, you shouldn't translate as you're singing like this is what. But I think that you need to get the translation and then know per sentence, I guess you could say, or phrase, the key words that you're kind of going for, the feeling, and then once you're out there, you're not translating as you go, but you kind of generally know what the words mean. And but yes, you have to do that to be. Otherwise, it's sort of. You're just sort of singing, you know? I mean, there has to be some meaning.
Because if you don't know the meaning, it's mechanical.
Yeah,
You
I
memorize
think so.
it, but it doesn't come from the heart almost.
Yeah. Though it's safe to say with most Filipino songs, they're about longing and love.
Well, that is the main theme.
That's the main
of,
theme.
Filipino culture in general.
Yeah, so if you do forget, you can just dramatically know that that's what's in there.
You know why it's called kundiman? You know why it's called kundiman?
No, actually, I
Because
don't.
it's short for kung hindi man, like if it's not meant to be. Like,
Oh.
that's why it's kundi man, kung hindi man. So again, there's a
Ah, yeah.
fatalistic element to it. Like even if we can't be together, you know,
Yeah.
our love through this song will somehow keep our love alive.
That's interesting. I never knew
Kundiman.
that.
There you go.
Do you sing any Kundiman songs?
Well, you know, in the shower every now and then. I try,
Every
but
once in a
not always
while.
as successful as you.
Okay.
How do Philippine audiences respond to you?
You know, I have to say, I felt so embraced here. Otherwise, I guess I wouldn't keep coming back. It's not the easiest audience. I'll be very honest. It is
Why is
really
that?
not. Because it is a culture that sings. You know, everybody sings. So if you have the audacity to be a foreigner to come here and say, I'm going to sing too, they're like, we've got singers. You know, so you have to come to the table with something different. I mean, every tito, tita, mother, father, every driver, every person who works in a shop, anybody, they all sing. So you have to really know your stuff, and you don't just show up, especially to karaoke, without like some signature song, or you are out. And I don't do karaoke usually, but I'm not.
You must bring down the house in these karaoke joints.
I mean, I have a few songs that I'll try, but I don't
being too
enjoy
modest.
it
There
as
we go.
much. Karaoke is harder for me. I don't
Harder
know why.
for you, really?
Because it's not live, and it's like there's lyrics there, and I'm not performing. I'm supposed to just have fun. I'm like, have fun. This is a job, like I don't know.
This is very interesting to hear from you.
Yeah, I think so. And I think people like expect me to be great at it, so it's really hard to kind of get myself.
Anyway, Stephanie, hold that thought because
Sure,
we can
sure.
be in part 2 about your other work like Broadway and Europe and all that. So guys, stay tuned because more of Meet Stephanie Reese when Philippines Uncut returns.
And then he touched me. I felt his hand near mine, and then he touched me. I felt a sudden tingle when he touched me. A sparkle, a glow. He knew it. It wasn't accidental, no. He knew it. He smiled and seemed to tell me so all through it. He knew it. I know. It's real, and the world's alive and shining. I feel such a wonderful drive toward He touched me. I simply have to face the fact he touched me. Control myself and try to act as if I remember my name. 'Cause he touched me, he touched me, and suddenly nothing is the same.
Be advised, the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Singer Stephanie Reese was born and raised in Seattle, but her exotic beauty and her beautiful voice have taken her to stages far, far from home. This is her. Stephanie has appeared on theater stages in London, Germany. She's performed solo concerts to fans in Russia, Thailand, China, Indonesia. She is the first Filipino-American singer to headline Carnegie Hall in New York City.
Come make a little step of peace for all the children of the world.